لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم يغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. As we continue in Buloogh Al-Maraam, Kitab Al-Siyam, and likewise for the one who wants to bring Umdat Al-Ahkam by the great Imam Abdul Ghani Al-Maqdisi, Rahimahullah, for that's khair upon khairin, for that's good upon more good. As you'll find that these ahadith, especially what is mentioned in Umdat Al-Ahkam, agrees with the ahadith that is mentioned likewise in Buloogh Al-Maraam. As you do not find a big khilaf or big difference in the two books, but however, ya ma'ash al-ikhwa, if one wanted to use both, then that's good upon more good. We started off the chapter as we were mentioning the ta'rif of as-siyam. We said that is a ta'abbud lillahi tabaraka wa ta'ala, that it is worshiping Him subhanahu jalla fil ula. It is worship of Him. And for a person leaving off food and drink and abstaining from those matters, then no one know for sure that he's doing it for the pleasure of Allah and out of his worship, whereas one is actualizing what he was created for and why he was put on this earth temporarily. We said that it's abstination from tulu' al-fajr, or as they say, tulu' afwan, الأكل أو الامتناع عن أكل والشرب وما معناهما من طلوع الفجر الثاني إلى غروب الشمس. We said that the meaning of as-siyam, we went on the linguistic meaning, for lack of better words, and then we went on to the al-ma'na al-istilahi, what is mentioned in kitab and likewise in the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. We discussed and said that the ta'rif or the definition of siyam is what everyone. We said that it is what? A ta'abbud lillah by what? That's the linguistic meaning. What is the al-ma'na al-istilahi? I said that ta'abbud lillah. What was the other part? From abstaining from food and drink. And what is the meaning of it? And the rest of those affairs that breaks one's fast. From the second fajr, when the adhan is called, like we said, that's in the Islamic countries, to when the sun sets in the west. That's what we mentioned last class, right, everyone? طيب. We said, in regards to the definition in last class, we talked about and mentioned and said that the ta'rif, we explained a little bit of each wording of the definition. We talked about as-siyam. We said as-siyam al-istilahi, with the meaning of it as far as in kitab and sunnah. We said it abstaining from food and drink. And what is the meaning of it? The details of that, all of it is going to come inshallah. We briefly touched on what is the al-mufattirat al-hissiyya wal-ma'nawiyya. What is those affairs that breaks one's fast? What is hissi, what is tangible, or what one can see with the eyes, or smell, or taste, or hear, or what have you. And we also talked about the second category, which is what, everyone? What they call al-ma'nawi, which is intangible, but it's there, such as sins, such as backbiting, sins, qawl az-zur, or evil speech, or vulgar speech, or obscene behavior, or misconduct, or improper behavior, or lying, or stealing, or looking at something haram, or listening to something haram, to the end of it. But we said that it does not break the fast. However, it would decrease one's reward and diminish his reward until there will not be any reward left of his siyam. But like we said, one does not fall into riba, or if he's to fall in riba, he does not say, khalas, my siyam is broke, I fell in the backbiting. No. We say, continue your fasting. Continue your fasting, bi'idhnillah jalla wa az, and abstain from those acts which are unlawful while you're fasting. But however, these type of acts and this type of conduct and behavior will diminish one's reward until nothing is left of the reward of siyam, like we mentioned in last class, right, everyone? طيب, we also talked about last class in regards what they call min tulu' al-fajr al-thani, from the second fajr. We said al-fajr al-awwal, or what they call al-fajr al-kadhib, or al-kadhub, the fake fajr. Al-fake fajr is the time, like we said, it's not the real time for fajr. But if he was in a Muslim country, or Islamic country, you'll find in some of the countries they actually do this, what they call 2 adhans, right, everyone? We discussed this last class. 2 adhans. The first adhan comes approximately, depending on the times, of course, from one country to the next is different, but approximately 45 minutes before the true fajr comes in, where you'll find, like we said in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, wa Bilal ibn Abi Rabah radiyallahu anhu ardah, you'll find that Bilal used to what, everyone? He used to give the adhan before the real time came in. Why? In order to prepare the people to get up to take suhoor, or the pre-dawn meal, before they actually start the fast, or to get up for them to pray tahajjud, or what have you, or witr, or to the end of it. But however, the second adhan was with the other sahabi, who was Ibn Maktoum radiyallahu anhu. He would call the adhan when the actual time was in, or when the time truly came in. That's why you'll find the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which we'll talk about inshallah. He says, if you hear the adhan for Bilal, فلا تصوموا. فإذا سمعتم أذان بلال فلا تصوموا. ولكن صوموا عند سماع أذان ابن مكتوم. He says, if you hear the adhan for Bilal, then do not fast. Why? Because Bilal called the first adhan, which is not the true time for Fajr. You understand, everyone? It wasn't the true time for Fajr. It did not come in yet. However, the Prophet ﷺ said, ولكن, he says, صوموا مع أذان ابن مكتوم. He says, however, fast or start your fast when you hear the adhan of Ibn Maktoum. Because Ibn Maktoum radiyallahu anhu ardah used to call the adhan for what, everyone? When the time for Fajr truly came in. The true time. Now, like we said, this is in the Muslim countries, but we do not do this usually here. But here, rather one suffices with one adhan. But however, ya ma'ash al-ikhwa, if we was in a Muslim country, then you'll find that this sunnah is actually established. But here, one hears one adhan. But if we was in those Muslim countries, this would be the proper way to apply this. If one heard 2 adhans, he would not start his fasting until he heard the second one. What they call it, al-fajr as-sadiq, the true time for when Fajr actually came in. That's what we discussed last class, right, everyone? Jayyid. We want to start, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, As we know, there are a lot of fawaid in as-siyam, which we'll talk about, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, as the time proceeds or as the time goes on. We'll elaborate on the different benefits of fasting in its due time, inshallah. So firstly, one wants to start the first hadith. If you go to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, if you look in your books, it says, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم أو يومين إلا رجل كان يصوم صومه فليصوم. What's the problem? Everything okay? Oh, okay. No. The hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam where it says, وَلِيَثَارِ أَبُو هُرَيرَةَ رضي الله عنه أرضاه قال, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, do not precede Ramadan by the fasting a day or 2 days, except a man that used to fast, who is accustomed to fasting his fast, then let him fast or let him perform that fast. The hadith is agreed upon in Al-Bukhari and Muslim with the exact same wording, which is one of the highest forms of authenticity of a hadith. So the narration has been firmly established upon our Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. So you find in the hadith it says, do not precede Ramadan by fasting a day or 2 days. Right, everyone? Except a man that used to fast or was accustomed to fasting a particular fast, then let him perform it. طيب. If you notice in the hadith, يا معش الإخوة, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited a type of fast. He prohibited a type of fast. This mas'ala, what they talk about, do not precede Ramadan by a day or 2 days. You'll find that Ahl Ilm that they call this day the day of Yom Shak. They call it Yom Shak, the day of doubt. Of whether or not Yom Shak, the day of doubt, because it's not been truly established, or whether or not Ramadan has been, or has it actually inaugurated, or did actually start, or not. For that reason, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited this type of day, to the point where even the Sahaba, if you understood, according to their understanding of these nusus, you'll find in the next hadith, if you look in your books, what does it say? A person would say, how is this a hadith? We'll explain in a minute, inshallah. If you look in your books, it says what, everyone? It says, on يثار عمار ibn Yasir قال من صام اليوم الذي يشك فيه فقد عصى أبا القاسم ذكره البخاري تعليقا ووصله الخمسة وصححه ابن خزيمة وابن حبان. He says, on Yathari Ammar ibn Yasir, now listen to what the Sahabi mentioned. So this gives some extra clarity from the other narration that we mentioned. It gives some more clarity. So it says, whoever fasts the day which has doubt in it, verily has disobeyed Abul Qasim. Abul Qasim is, who's who, everyone? It's the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As we know, that was his kunya, alayhi salatu wasalam. So for the Imam al-Bukhari, he mentioned it ta'liqan. Ta'liqat al-Imam al-Bukhari. Meaning that he mentioned it without an isnad, it was mentioned completely. He didn't mention it with an isnad. That's what they say, ta'liqan. You'll find that the other ai had actually said the hadith is, and the chain of it is connected. Whereas you'll find that the group of those what they call Ashab al-Khamsa, mean the five from Ahl Ilm, who's Abu Dawood and Ibn Majah and Tirmidhi and Nasa'i, also likewise Imam Ahmad, said that the chain is connected in this narration. Abu Dawood, Ibn Majah, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, and also Imam Ahmad in his Musnad. You'll find that the great Imam, they used to call him Imam al-A'imma, Ibn Khuzaymah, rahimahullah, also likewise said this narration of Ammar ibn Yasir is authentic. طيب, If you notice in this narration, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, it says, من صام اليوم الذي يشك فيه فقد عصى أبا القاسم. That whoever fasts the day in which has doubt in it, he has disobeyed Abu al-Qasim. You'll find that Ahl Ilm say that this hadith takes the this athar, this wording of the Sahabi takes the hukm of a hadith, and the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Lahu hukm al-rafi'. It takes the hukm of a hadith. Why? Because he gave a narration that said that he has disobeyed Abu al-Qasim, whereas he's reached the level of tahreem, where he's reached the level of something being impermissible, to the point where if he's to do it, he has done a sin or committed a sin. There's no one from the Sahaba that can speak about this matter except that they had heard this understanding and took it directly from the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And like we said, you'll find the Ahl Ilm, from them is the great Imam Shaykh Salih Fawzan, even says the exact same thing. He said this narration, lahu hukm al-rafi'. This narration takes the ruling of a hadith, an authentic hadith to the message of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. طيب, so now a person needs to know, what is Yawm al-Shak? What is Yawm al-Shak? What is the day of doubt? As we know, all the other different fasting, notice that the message of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam gave an exception in the hadith. Right, everyone? That he gave an exception. He said, except a man that used to fast or was accustomed to fasting at his usual fast, then let him perform that fast. طيب, why? You'll find because the other siyam or fasting that the one previously used to perform before Ramadan came in, and also Sha'ban, and maybe even before Sha'ban, his niyyah or his intention is not for Ramadan. It's not for what? Ramadan. Which we're going to discuss in a minute and give more clarity. For example, all those highly obligatory fasts that one does throughout the year, meaning, for example, Ayyam al-Bid, or what they call the white days. White days are what, everyone? They're the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th of the Hijri calendar from every month. From every month of the Hijri calendar. The Hijri. I didn't say Miladi, not the Gregorian calendar, however, the Hijri calendar. The 13th, 14th, and 15th is what they call Ayyam al-Bid, the white days. Some people translate it the white nights, but it's called the white days. Well, we know the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam highly recommended that one fast what they call Ayyam al-Bid. Ayyam al-Bid. With a dad. Ayyam al-Bid. Ayyam al-Bid, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, is the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th of every month, or every Hijri month. Notice I said Hijri. So if one wanted to attain that reward, he would have to look in the Hijri calendar of fasting, 13th, 14th, 15th. We know that is from those highly recommended fasts that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had made for his ummah as one, if he wanted to do something voluntary or supererogatory, that he would fast the 13th, 14th, and 15th. That's one of the type of fasts that are mustahab. I should have turned this off. Excuse me. No. I'm good. So the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th is what everyone? That's called Ayyam al-Bid. Ayyam al-Bid. طيب. We also know that the Message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam highly recommended, it's not obligatory, fasting 3 days from every month. Right, everyone? 3 days that the abd can choose from 3 days from out of every month, except those days in which the Message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had prohibited, such as fasting Jumu'ah by itself. We're not talking about the obligatory siyam, Obligatory siyam can be done Jumu'ah, it could be on Saturday, it could be on Friday, it doesn't matter. We're talking about voluntary or supererogatory, or those fasts that it is a voluntary type of siyam, not obligatory. So one wanted to fast 3 days out of the month, then of course, then he chooses, except those days in which the Messenger of Allah ﷺ prohibited that they be fasted by themselves, such as, for example, Friday alone, or for example, Saturday alone. For verily, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ in his narrations we'll talk about prohibited siyam in those particular days by themselves. That is which is voluntary. As far as obligatory, then one can fast Jumu'ah alone if he wanted, or Saturday alone if he wanted. Doesn't matter if it's obligatory. But as far as it being voluntary, then if one wanted to choose 3 days out of every month, except those days in which he prohibited, alayhi salatu wasalam, then he can do so. And those are from those fasting that one is acclimated towards fasting, which we'll discuss in this narration in a minute. So, number one, we have Ayyam al-Bid, the white days, right everyone? The white days, which is what? 13th, 14th, 15th of the Hijri calendar, not the Gregorian calendar. طيب. Also from those fasting that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ prescribed, which is what everyone? For example, 3 days from every month. 3 days out of every month. That's another type of fast, voluntary fast that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had also recommended. Also from those days in which the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had recommended, which is highly recommended, but it's not obligatory, is, for example, the day of Yawm al-Ithnain wal-Khamis, which is what? Monday and Thursday. طيب. So if one is acclimated to doing this type of fast, all the days, or for example, the following examples we just gave. Or let's just say, for example, we want to add to that list a fourth type of fast. In this day, which is what? The day of doubt. So notice that we're focusing on what, everyone? We're focusing on the day of doubt. So the Messenger of Allah, if you look at your book, it says, what again? Do not precede Ramadan by a day or 2 days, except a man that was acclimated or accustomed to fasting a certain type of fast, then let him perform that fast. Right, everyone? طيب. That exception applies on what we just mentioned. The white nights, the 3 days from every month, also likewise, Monday and Thursday. So that exception applies to those examples we just gave. Also likewise, if you want to add to the list, which we'll add, inshallah, right now, also likewise, what is obligatory? Obligatory for siyam, let's just say from a past Ramadan that preceded from last year. Or any type of obligatory what? Fasting. So a person will ask me, there's more than one type of obligatory siyam? Yes, there is. You have the siyam for Ramadan, and you also have siyam nadhr, of taking an oath, or taking a vow. For example, we'll talk about that in Kitab al-Tawheed, that's the whole chapter. A person taking a vow to fast a certain amount of days. If he takes a vow, then that siyam is obligatory. Like for example, it says, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cures my sick, then it's upon me for Allah to fast 3 days. If a person makes that type of vow, or if he says that siyam is obligatory. So that's another type of siyam that is what, everyone? It's an obligation. Then you have a third type of siyam, which is an obligation, which is what they call siyam al-kaffara. Siyam or fasting, which is an expiation. So you have 3 types of siyam which are obligatory. Number 1, Ramadan. If one wants to make it up. So we know that fasting is obligatory. The second type of siyam that is obligatory is siyam al-nadhr. The siyam of an oath or a vow one takes. That siyam is what, everyone? It's obligatory. The third one, Siyam Kafara. Siyam Kafara. The fasting, which is an expiation. The expiation, which we'll talk about, inshallah, when it comes. طيب. Those type of fasts, likewise, can be fast. One can perform it on the day of doubt. You understand, everyone? On the day of doubt. Why? Because it's obligatory and it was from a previous Ramadan, or it was due to another reason, such as a vow one took, or oath one took, or an expiation that one had to make. That could also be done on Yom Shak, on the day of doubt. Because, like we said, these type of fasts that is written on the list is not for the intention of fasting the Ramadan that is coming. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? There's another type of delete, or there's another type of narration that I wanted to read to everyone. I forgot it. Excuse me, let me go get it. I wanted to also give some elaboration on the narration where the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا انْتَصَفَ شَعْبَانَ فَلَا تَصُمُّوا. That Sha'ban, if it becomes now the 15th day or the middle day of Sha'ban, do not fast. How do we apply that to this narration? Here, I'll give it to you in a second, inshallah. Hold on. Excuse me. Somewhat. No. So now, a person asks, what about the narration where it says the siyam or fasting after the 15th day of Sha'ban? Is it haram or is it detested or is it disliked? He says, we hope from you some clarity or benefit. So the great Imam, Shaykh Abdul-Aziz bin Baz, he says, الجواب يقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا انتصف الشعبان فلا تصوموا. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, if Ramadan becomes, if Sha'ban, if it becomes in the middle of it, which is the 15th, do not fast. So Shaykh ibn Baz said that the hadith is sahih. Now listen to what he goes on to say. He says, من صام أول الشهر ليس له أن يصوم بعد النصف لهذا الحديث الصحيح وهكذا لو صام آخر الشهر ليس له ذلك من باب أولى. He says, this hadith is authentic. So how do we apply it? He says, for the person who fasts the first part of the month, the person who fasts, من صام أول الشهر ليس له أن يصوم بعد النصف, what is understood from the hadith is that the person can only fast the first part of Sha'ban. That's what's understood from the hadith, right, everyone? So if the middle of Sha'ban comes, then it's not permissible to what? Fast. That's what's understood due to this hadith. طيب. Now, we have this narration which we're discussing now. This one is written in everyone's book. What does it say? Do not precede Ramadan by a day or 2 days except a man that was acclimated to performing a certain fast and then perform it. طيب. He says, الَّذِي لَهُ عَادَ لَبَسْ. Now the person, likewise, the same thing we're mentioning here to this hadith, here in this book, likewise applies to this hadith. Same thing. Just to keep everything easy. Everything we just mentioned here about all those different types of fasts and what the exception was made, and the one that's in your book applies to this hadith here. Same thing. He says, the person who was acclimated to doing a certain fast, meaning before Sha'ban came in, used to fast, for example, what is written, 3 days Ayyam al-Bid, for example, used to fast Ayyam al-Bid, the white days, which is 13, 14, 15. Well, that's actually before Sha'ban. But let's just say every week you used to fast Monday, Thursday. Every week. Right? That was the person's habitual thing he did, habitually. Now listen what Shaykh ibn Baz goes on to say. He says, the person who used to do something habitually, then it's no problem for him to do that. For example, if it was his way or his habit to fast on Monday and Thursday, no problem. Then he can fast after what? The 15th of Sha'ban. No. He said, فَلَا بَأْسَ يَصُومُ أو عادته يصوم يوم ويفطر يوم لا بأس. Now, so a person that was his habitual thing that he used to do prior, meaning before, and for example, what he did at the first part of Sha'ban, and what was his habitual thing that he did, and he was acclimated to doing it consistently, then he can fast at the latter part of or after the 15th of Sha'ban. You understand, everyone? What's it going to say? He says, as for a person that starts his siyam after the half, after the middle of Sha'ban, that's not permissible. However, now listen to what he gives the next extra benefit. Now listen. However, if a person fasts now, let's just say he started from the 14th of Sha'ban, or he would have fasted, he would start at the 15th, or let's just say he fasted the 13th of Sha'ban. Here we say he can still fast after the 15th. He says, لِأَنَّهُ أَكْثَرَهُ إِذَا صَامَ كُلَّهُ أَوْ أَكْثَرَهُ فَلَا بَأْسَ. That's because he fasted majority of Sha'ban, of course. But if he fasted all of it or majority of it, then there's no problem. أما إن كونه وإن كونه يفطر النصف الأول ثم يبتدئ هذا هو المنهي عنه. He said, what is permissible, just to sum it up and make it clear, if a person has broke his fast where he did not fast at all the first half of Sha'ban, then he starts in the middle, then that is what is prohibited. So example, if a person wanted to fast the last part of Sha'ban, then what, everyone? If a person wanted to fast the last part, then they let him fast at least one day before the 15th, or a day or a couple of days before the 15th, the 13th or the 14th, and even the 15th. If he wanted to do a voluntary fast after the 15th. Now, does this hadith of Sha'ban apply to what is obligatory or not? There's another question. Is this general for any siyam? Or is it just obligatory? Or is it just voluntary? Which one is it? As far as what is obligatory, that's done what? Any year of the month. Any year. Any day. Any day. It's obligatory. But what is mentioned here is what? It's talking about what is voluntary. So after the 15th, then it's not permissible, in which was mentioned here in this narration. So we want to conclude, because a person would say, well, I thought after Sha'ban, then one is not, and one can't fast. We say, if a person fasts the first part of it, or a couple of days prior, or what was his habitual thing he used to do prior, and he's doing it consistently, and it coincided with those what? Those days, especially after Sha'ban, then one can fast the latter part or the last half of Sha'ban. And if it's what, everyone? And if it's obligatory. If it's obligatory, he also can likewise, he can fast. So just to sum up everything that applied on fasting on the day of doubt applies to the same hadith of when the Prophet ﷺ what? Said, do not fast day of shak or the day of doubt, except a man that was habitually to doing a certain type of fast and let him perform it. The same thing applies. No different. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? The same thing applies. Is it clear? J. Now, if a person was to come, what is prohibited is a person now, he mixes niyyah because he wants to say, well, it's the day of doubt. I want to just be just in case. I want to fast this day because tomorrow might be Ramadan. If this is his niyyah, then this is what is prohibited. Because his intention is to fast for the Ramadan that has not started yet. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Because it did not actually come in yet. This is not permissible. Rather, you'll find that Ahl Ilm consider this to be bid'ah. It's an innovation and it is haram. Keep in mind what we mentioned last week. What did we say? What did we say last week, everyone? We said the origin in al-ibadat is what? Al-mana'. It's that the origin of worship, that everything is what? Prohibited, unless there's a text supporting it. Here, not only is there no text, rather you'll find a prohibition saying not to do it. So for one to now come, or it's the day of doubt in which the Messenger of Allah ﷺ prohibited, and he performs this, then he is found to something impermissible. So what is impermissible here, like we said, is not to precede Ramadan by a day or 2 days. This is prohibited, and this prohibition necessitates tahreem. It necessitates it being impermissible. It's a sin if one was to do it. It is not permissible to add on in the affairs of worship or augment or increase something in the affairs of worship in which Allah Ta'ala has bounded. Just as, for example, in our salah, it's not permissible to add on another rak'ah after 4. Or, for example, Salat al-Maghrib is 3. A person would come in and say, Akhi, salah is worship. I'm praying 4 for Maghrib. Or I'm praying 5 for Maghrib. Or I'm praying 6 for Maghrib. It's ibadah, it's worship. I want good. What's the problem? And you'll find that a lot of people that they want, and as far as in the aspect of khilaf, that's where you stop them at. Because there's no Muslim in their right state of mind that will never argue with the affairs of the salah. Then likewise it applies in the affairs of fiqh, the same thing. The reason why you will ask a person, why don't you pray 3 for Fajr, 4 for Fajr? There's no Muslim out there except that they will what? They will ridicule and they will what? Reprimand the individual for what? Doing this type of act. No one will accept this. The same thing in the aspect of siyam here in this particular context that we're discussing now. It's not permissible to add on to something that Allah Ta'ala bounded. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So that's the reason why we say it's not permissible to add on the month of Ramadan what is not from it. That Allah Ta'ala bounded the beginning of Siyam by what, everyone? 2 affairs. So fasting starts by one of the 2 affairs. Which is the first one? The first one is either by seeing the moon, Ru'yat al-Hilal, that's number 1, or completing the 30 days of Sha'ban. That's it. No more, no less. And that the actual month, that it starts by the sighting of one individual who is, he specializes, he's a professional, he has strong sight, he's reliable and trustworthy, and of course, he's Muslim also likewise. But we'll talk about that in his due time. But anyway, just to stick to what we're just saying now. Just to stick with what we're saying to now, is that Ramadan that it starts by either number 1, what everyone? By the sighting of the moon, and number 2, by completing the 30 days of Sha'ban. Jayyid. No. Absolutely. It can be. That's the reason why we said by the sighting of the moon. Because it could be 29 days. As has taken place here, where we only did 29 days in Sha'ban, and then Ramadan started the following day. We didn't complete 30. It happens. Fine. Notice that it says in the narration of Ammar ibn Yasir, it says, whoever has fasted the day of doubt, then he has disobeyed Abul Qasim. Tayyib. A person would say, well, why would a person want to do that? Why would a person want to fast the day of doubt? What is causing doubt in the first place? What is causing doubt, a person would say, why is it when a person will want to fast on the day of doubt? For what reason? Why? Because usually there's some type of hindrance. a hindrance that holds or comes between the person and actually seeing the moon, such as, for example, what everyone, such as it being cloudy, such as it being cloudy, or such as it being, for example, in certain places, it might be sand or what they call qatam or what they call qatar, which is the dirt from the. تفضل. تفضل. طيب. So regarding what we mentioned, we said whatever you want. What would cause some doubt? What would be the day of doubt? Why is it called the day of doubt? Due to the fact you'll find, like we said, certain days it's either what? Cloudy, or there's something blocking one's vision from seeing it. Certain countries, they have a riyah, or they have those sand type storms, or they have some type of blackness, or something that is hindering the sighting of the moon. Something that is hindering the sighting of the moon. Some type of hindrance. So if it's some type of hindrance that's blocking, what will cause as a result of it, what everyone? Doubt. Because one cannot see the actual what? Sighting of the moon, right everyone? So, person would say, it's what يحتمل أنه تمام الشعبان ويحتمل أنه من رمضان وهو مشكوك فيه. والشك هو التردد بين أمرين لا مرجح لأحدهما. فإن ترجح أحدهما فإنه يسمى ظنا to the end of it. He says you'll find that, of course, a person would say that it's probably perhaps that it's still Sha'ban, it's the end of Sha'ban. Or that it's the end of Sha'ban. And so more than likely it probably might be more Ramadan, or it might be Ramadan. So it's some doubt. It could be Sha'ban or it could be Ramadan. As we know, the meaning of shak is a taraddudu bayna amrayn la murajjiha li ahadihima. The meaning of it is reluctancy or hesitance. Hesitance between two affairs that one cannot override his doubt or his conjecture or what he thinks. That's the meaning of shak. So basically what he thinks of certainty or what he has some reluctancy or hesitancy in is at the same level. So for that reason, they call it doubt, the day of doubt. Is it Ramadan? Is it Sha'ban? Which one is it? So now, what does a person do? Either on the 9th day or let's just say the 30th day of Sha'ban. No one's seen the sighting of the moon, either due to cloudiness or some clouds in the sky or some type of hindrance or any type of hindrance there is. He says it's probably from Ramadan or it might be probably for Sha'ban. Based upon this narration clearly, the Messenger of Allah said what, everyone? Do not fast the day of doubt. Do not fast the day of doubt. He says do not fast the day of doubt. And on top, of course, the narration of Ammar ibn Yasir, that the Messenger of Allah prohibited the day in which one has doubted or is doubting him. He's disobeyed Abu al-Qasim. So the point where we know that the Messenger of Allah even had a kunya. As we know, Qasim was the oldest of his children. His oldest of his children, it was his son, Sallallahu who died, and it was from Khadija radiallahu anha ardaha. As we know, Khadija had the Prophet Sallallahu oldest son, who was Ibrahim, who died at the stage of infancy. And he died in Mecca, radiallahu anhu ardaha. In regards to now, the kunya, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu, that we know kunya is to show some type of honor or respect to one. So they call him Abu, such and such. Abu, such and such. Because it displays and it shows some type of what? Honor to an individual. So they gave him a kunya, Abu al-Qasim, alayhi salatu wasalam. But at any rate, what is extracted from this narration, ya ma'ashar al-ikhwa, from this hadith, that it's not permissible to fast the day of what? The day of doubt. It's not permissible to fast the day of doubt, and the day of doubt is the 30th of Sha'ban, Yawm al-Thalathim in Sha'ban. So if there's some hindrance that comes in between the sighting of the moon, and it's on the day of the 30th day, of what will prohibit a person from seeing the sighting, such as a cloud or any type of hindrance, blackness or what have you. The majority of Ahl Ilm say that is what? It's impermissible to fast that particular day due to the hadith of what we mentioned. Notice I said hadith of Ammar ibn Yasir. Why? Because Ahl Ilm said that this narration takes the hukum of what, everyone? Of a hadith. Due to the fact that Ammar ibn Yasir would never say that something is isyan, disobedience, unless he took that understanding directly from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You'll never find that any of the Sahaba will make ijtihad in affairs that are impermissible. Especially these affairs are from the affairs of tashri', from legislation, to say something is unlawful. So they took that particular understanding from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam directly. You'll find that also likewise those who are upon the same position is the great Imam Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah also says it's impermissible to fast the day of doubt. Also likewise Ibn al-Qayyim, and also likewise the great Imam Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah, saying it's impermissible to fast the day of doubt. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? It's impermissible to fast the day of doubt. You'll find certain people will probably come to you and say to you, what about the madhab al-Imam Ahmad? The madhab al-Imam Ahmad. You'll find that even the great Imam Shaykh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymin rahimahullah, he even mentioned it himself. He said there's no clear text of Imam Ahmad saying something of what will indicate that he says it's permissible to fast the day of doubt. He said, but however you'll find it, that it was from the aqwal ashab al-madhab, that those who basically service the madhab al-Hanbali, the madhab al-Imam Ahmad. You'll find it's from the ulama of those scholars that actually service the madhab al-Hanbali. But at any rate, just to sum up and conclude everything, I don't want to get inside the ikhtilafat in this issue. But however, just to sum it up, you'll find that al-ilm just say, is from them is great, the Sheikh Muhammad bin Salih al-Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, and likewise Sheikh Abdulaziz bin Baz, rahimahullah, and also Sheikh Salih Fawzan ibn Abdullah al-Fawzan, rahimahullah, and also from the Lajnat Da'ima and other than them, from Ahl Ilm, that say it's impermissible to fast the day of doubt. It's impermissible to fast the day of doubt. All of them are upon hum ala tahrim siyam yawm al-shak. وهو يوم الثلاثين من شعبان. فهم على تحريمه لأنه يسمى يوم الشك. They are upon that it's impermissible to fast the day because it's called the day of what everyone? The day of doubt. Jayyid? Is clear? طيب inshallah. If anyone wants to continue, we could continue after the salah, inshallah. Barakallahu fiqh. We'll stop and just pray, and then we'll continue a little bit after the salah, and then we'll stop. Jayyid? Everything we're saying is clear so far? Any questions about the lesson so far? تفضل. No, it's in Al-Bukhari. Which one are you talking about? Which one? Oh, you're talking about Hadith Sahih. Sheikh Abdulaziz said, هذا الحديث صحيح. Sheikh Abdulaziz bin Baz, rahimahullah. He says, الشهر ليس له يصوم بعد النصف لهذا الحديث الصحيح, due to this authentic narration. You're talking about if Sha'ban becomes in the middle, they do not fast. You talking about that narration? Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hold on for 1 second. إذا انتصف شعبان فلا تصوم. Why do that? السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. What time did it come in? 7:56. What time did it come in? It's time to leave. I'll give it to you at the salah. We got to pray.